Brian Barton disappeared on Thursday, March 10th, 2005. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Brian Barton's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. Brian Barton unexpectedly quits his band, and now he has disappeared.
I thought he had set out to kill himself.
And recent events only heighten the mystery.
She came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil.
With each passing day, suspicion builds.
Someone in that band knows what happened, and they don't want to share it.
Did Brian Barton disappear to start a new life? Or was he the victim of foul play?
We don't know what happened. We just know we have our son missing, and it's just a tough life.
"25-year-old Brian Barton has been playing guitar with his band called As Fate Would Have It for almost a year. Recently, things have started to take off.
I started to turn more into like a legit band, you know, and we started playing good shows.
In fact, the band has just won a local contest to perform at their biggest show ever, the Taste of Chaos Festival in Seattle.
Huge. I mean, talking like 6,000 people.
Brian went out and bought like brand new gear, like new amps, new pedals. He was totally stoked on it. He probably blew about, you know, $2 or $3 grand on just pumping up his gear for this specific show.
Brian was very excited. You know, he almost didn't believe it.
Brian Barton was adopted as an infant by Maureen and J.B. Barton. Together with his brothers Stephen and Adam, Brian had a carefree childhood in Vista, California, just outside San Diego.
He was very, outgoing, liked to talk to people, and he was very happy, He just thought life was good and he had a good time.
But in 2001, when Brian was 21, he decided he needed a change. He and his best friend, John Krebs, packed up and moved north to Seattle, Washington, to test their skills in the city's vibrant music scene.
A lot of music comes out of Seattle, so we figured it would be a good place to start and try something and see what happened.
The phrase I always remember is he said, "That's where the music scene is, Dad."
Brian was ready to move and get on and see what life held for him, so I was okay with it. Yes, my husband and I said, okay, fine, just keep in touch.
Over the next 4 years, Brian built a name for himself in the local punk rock scene and a serious relationship with his girlfriend, Brianna Duvall.
Brian and I were always friends. I'd say a good, 4 years before we even started dating. So we really didn't have a courtship before we started dating. We just really jumped into it, fell in love really fast, and it was exciting.
The couple quickly decides to move in together. Their new townhouse apartment is in Federal Way, a suburb of Seattle.
In the beginning, when they were all super in love, they would always be in Brian's room, like just avoiding the outside world, just locked in there.
Brian seemed to be in love with Brianna. He called me a couple of weeks before and he said, "Mom, all I want is the wife, the kids, the house, the white picket fence."
He proposed 6 months into the relationship, and that was it.
Everything in Brian's life seems to be on track. But by early 2005, Brian's relationship with Brianna, now his fiancée, begins to falter.
Brian and Brianna's relationship was interesting. Definitely had their good times, but there was definitely times where he would be kind of concerned. He was always wondering if she was flirting with the other guys, stuff like that.
According to his bandmates, Brian's relationship problems start to create some tension in the band.
Brian would come to practice upset about this or that, or some argument that they had, and he would stop practice to go talk on the phone and settle whatever problem was going on at the time.
He really liked her, but she was kind of like young party girl, not ready to be tied down.
In early March, just 1 week before Brian goes missing, his relationship with Brianna seems to reach its tipping point. Brian's band is playing a show at a bar in nearby Tacoma, and at one point in the night, Brian sees Brianna talking to another guy.
We played the show, and there's like one of her like guys, you know, like this guy that she was friends with, you know, but probably a little too friendly for his comfort level.
Brian immediately approaches Brianna and the friend.
Came up to him and kind of got in his face, and I was kind of like trying to get in between too, like, because I was suspecting Brian to throw a blow at him.
Basically caught her trying to hang out with some other guy, so those two were just getting volatile.
Over the next few days, the argument seems to affect Brian deeply.
After that show, Brian started acting strange.
I mean, it was like his personality changed. I mean, and I think his friends were even aware of that.
He just kind of started moping around a little bit more. He just wasn't as happy as he was. It seemed like he needed a change.
Brian seems to be struggling, trying to make a decision about his relationship with Brianna.
The day after the show at the Shipwreck, he came to our house and he was talking to me and my roommates about how he wanted to break up with Brianna. He seemed pretty upset, and we just kind of tried to talk to him and just make him comfortable and happy. And that's really only what our concern was at that time.
On Tuesday, March 8th, the conflict with Brianna comes to a head.
I was at work and he called me, and it sounded to me like he had had a long discussion with his friends, and he came to the conclusion that we just weren't right together. And we had just moved into that townhome, and I thought that we were on a different part of our relationship, and so it was pretty shocking.
To Brian's bandmates, however, the decision seems like a wise one.
I was relieved because Brian was relieved. That stress, that burden was off his shoulders, and you could tell that he was lighter because of it. And so I thought it was all said and done.
But in reality, Brian is already questioning his decision about Brianna.
He's like, yeah, I got rid of this girl, but like, ugh, I miss her, you know what I mean?
The next evening, on March 9th, Brianna stays home, hoping to patch things up with Brian.
I was beside myself. I was sitting drinking alone, hoping that he would show up and we can discuss it.
When Brian gets home, he and Brianna have a long talk, and they decide to give it another try. A few hours later, Brian calls Dylan, the bass player of his band, and makes a shocking announcement.
He called me and talked to me, you know, he said he wanted to quit the band, you know, and I was like, why? You know, he's trying to say, well, I just don't like the music, but then like the day before he was just saying it was the best band he was ever in.
Dylan is angry that Brian quit the band, but Brianna is simply confused. According to her, the band was a positive part of Brian's life.
It was bizarre to me because he had just bought all this equipment, and they were talking about going to California and going on some tour, and it was a really cool opportunity, you know. So it was confusing.
To the band, however, it seems clear what has happened.
You know, he chose her over the band.
It was totally over, and then all of a sudden they were back, you know, totally teamed up and against the world.
Later that night, Brian still appears agitated. And then, with Brianna next to him, he makes a strange phone call to his best friend, John Krebs. Brian puts the call on speakerphone so Brianna can hear.
When Brian called us that day, he sounded very neurotic. He was not himself. It sounded like he was trying to get us to say something bad about her so she could hear it come out of our mouths, and he would have a reason not to be friends with us.
Brianna is further confused by Brian's strange and erratic behavior.
I mean, it was almost like a setup. It was really bizarre because he's loyal to his friends. He almost wanted me to hear that it's because of them that we broke up, or I don't know. It was bizarre.
Just hours after quitting his band, Brian now tells his friends that he has come to another decision, that he essentially wants to break all ties with them.
He didn't want to hang out with us or see us or, you know, have anything to do with us anymore. And the phone got passed around the room for a couple hours with everyone just trying to calm him down.
His friends think that between the pressures of his band and his relationship, he might be on the verge of a breakdown.
Like, everything was just adding up, and it was just like Brian holding the world, you know what I mean? It was just getting too heavy for him.
By the end of the night, Brian seems emotionally drained.
I think he felt alone. He was quiet. He stayed to himself. He slept on the couch and I slept upstairs.
But Brian and Brianna have one last conversation before they go to sleep.
I mean, he was crying and just beside himself, but it was something about, I don't think the world understands how much evil is out there, but how many good people still exist.
The next morning, Brianna feels hopeful that Brian's agitation may be subsiding.
So the morning of March 10th, I came downstairs and I saw that he had already gone to work, and I felt good about that. And I was off to work myself.
At Brianna's suggestion, Brian makes an appointment to see a counselor at 4 p.m. that day to talk about his anxieties.
So I was at work and I called him. He was still at work and he expressed to me that he was nervous about his counseling appointment. And I said, you know, well, that's natural and I'm proud of you for, you know, making this move in your life. I think it's going to be really positive. He thanked me for always being there for him. And I said, of course, I love you, you know, and that was it. He didn't say goodbye.
Brianna doesn't know it, but this is the last time she will speak to Brian Barton before he disappears. Coming up, Brianna remembers an ominous conversation she had with Brian just a week earlier about a guardian angel.
But she came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil. And I asked him, how would that happen? And he said I would have to die.
Barton's band, called As Fate Would Have It, was about to play the biggest show of their career. Brian should have been savoring the moment, but instead, he unexpectedly quits the band. Now, he's gone to see a counselor at his fiancée Brianna's urging.
I think he struggled with more things than we're aware of, and he just didn't show that vulnerability to anybody.
At 5 p.m., right as his appointment is scheduled to end, Brianna calls Brian to see how things went. But he does not pick up.
I called, and his phone just went to voicemail.
Immediately concerned, Brianna leaves work early and heads home.
And I saw his truck was there, and I was like, oh good, he is home, you know. He is home.
But when Brianna goes inside the apartment, Brian is nowhere to be found.
And so I'm calling people, you know, I'm not highly concerned at this point until like an hour or two has passed. And that's when I was like, okay, well, his truck's out there. And I went and I opened up the truck, and that's where I saw his keys and his cell phone shut off. It was as if he was sitting in his truck and just sat it down.
Growing increasingly distressed, Brianna searches the rest of the apartment for any other sign of Brian.
But then I went upstairs and saw his clothes there, and those were his regular work clothes, and his wallet was in there.
When Brianna checks Brian's wallet, she is shocked by what she finds. Over $800 in cash.
This isn't normal for him. He doesn't leave his money behind. He doesn't leave his life behind like this. Something's going on.
Meanwhile, Brian's band is busy rehearsing for the big show a week later.
And like we were just jammed trying to figure out like how we're gonna do this without Brian. Was Rusty gonna try to play guitar, or was I gonna play guitar?
The band is also trying to reach Brian.
We're gonna call him and like just try to talk him into doing the show. You know what I mean? Like, yo, come on, let's just put our differences aside. You know, we need to play the show.
But their calls, like Brianna's, go straight to Brian's voicemail.
We couldn't get a hold of him, and that was when Brianna called, freaking out, because she was all, you know, Brian's stuff is all here, he's not here, I don't know where he is, can't get a hold of him, he's gone. So me and Ryan took off and went up to Federal Way and went looking for him. We got some flashlights and went, you know, walked around the trails, drove around, you know. There's a lot of little trails in the woods that are out there.
Back at the apartment, Brianna makes another disturbing discovery.
After I saw the wallet, I then was on a rant to see, okay, is everything really here, you know? He wore glasses and then contacts, and so the contacts weren't missing, but he was struggling with sleep as I was, so we had a bottle of Tylenol PM, and that was missing.
Brianna suddenly realizes what the missing bottle could mean.
When I saw the missing bottle, I thought he'd set out to kill himself.
She then remembers a disturbing conversation she had with Brian the week before.
We were laying in bed one night, And he just told me that his angel came to him. And I asked him, I was like, oh, that's a weird dream. And he said, no, she came to me. And I said, okay, that scared me. She was very real to him. But she came to him and asked him to join the battle of good and evil. And I asked him, how would that happen? And he said, I would have to die.
Brianna has not spoken to Brian since before his 4 o'clock counseling appointment. And now she fears he may have taken his own life. She calls her mother in a panic.
She didn't understand. I mean, it was confusing. She said, I think you need to call the police. And the police initially, they didn't want to file it as a missing persons, and that wasn't even what I was wanting. You know, it's like, I just need someone to be aware that something's going on.
And while Brianna talks to the police, Dylan and Ryan continue to comb the woods. But they don't find Brian.
So we did that for the whole night, and then we went back to their apartment and stayed there for a night.
The next morning, there is still no sign of Brian, so Brianna calls Brian's parents to break the news. Brian's father, JB, gets the message from Brianna on their answering machine.
I didn't know what to do. I called my wife and told her, and I said, we need to go ahead and find out what's going on.
JB also calls the Federal Way Police to follow up on Brianna's original report.
And they essentially said, you know, he can go missing if he wants. He's allowed to do that.
Police tell the Bartons that they will look into the case and that all they can do for now is hope that Brian turns up. But back in Federal Way, Washington, Brian's friends are coming to their own conclusions. Rusty, the singer of the band, gets an unexpected call from Ryan, the other guitar player, who lived with Brian and Brianna.
And he's like, well, I've been out here all night looking for him and can't find him. And he left all of his stuff here. I think he's dead.
Rusty immediately questions Ryan's assumption.
My first thought is like, why would you automatically assume he was dead? You could have just gotten angry and, you know, spent the night at a motel or just slept under a rock or something.
Brianna, too, is hoping that Brian has simply walked away. She can even imagine what he might be thinking.
It's like, okay, I'm just gonna get up and go. You know, maybe this life that I started to form here isn't what I wanted, and I'm just gonna create a new one.
But as the weekend passes by with no word from Brian, it's harder and harder to believe there is a reasonable explanation for his disappearance.
We did pretty much everything we could that weekend to try to find him. I realized something was wrong when Sunday rolled around and I still hadn't heard anything.
Coming up, with no sign of Brian, his friends grow suspicious of each other.
I started to think that whatever happened that night, maybe some of my band members were involved in it, and that really freaked me out.
25-year-old Brian Barton has left behind all of his belongings and gone missing. Just before he disappeared, Brian had become extremely upset, breaking up with his fiancée Brianna and quitting his band. And now his friends and family are left to wonder, did he take off or did he take his own life?
He had definitely come to his boiling point with his life. Something had to give.
Brian has been missing for 4 days. Police support officer Darlene Deo is the first investigator to screen the case, and right away, she takes note of the length of time Brian had been missing before Brianna reported it to police.
Normally, a person would be missing for 8, 10, 12, 24 hours. Then someone would report them missing, especially an adult.
But in this case, Brianna reported Brian missing after just a few hours. This unusual aspect of the report catches Officer Deo's attention.
A flag went off in my head, and I thought, something's wrong here. It just didn't seem to add up to me. It didn't seem like it was as straightforward as it could have been.
Her first move is to contact Brianna, who fills her in on the details of Brian's disappearance.
In Brian Barton's case, there were some really unique circumstances that appeared right off the bat. He left all of his possessions behind. He had cashed his paycheck, his wallet was full of money. Everything that he had was left at the apartment.
Officer Deo also calls the counselor Brian saw the day he disappeared.
And she said that when Brian came in, he was depressed, he was sad, he was upset. His relationship with his girlfriend was off and on. And he brought up to her that, you know, because he was adopted, maybe that's why he has trouble with relationships.
But before Brian leaves the office, he apparently makes an ominous declaration to the counselor.
Now I know what I have to do. That was the last thing he said to her. Now I know what I have to do. And he left. And who knows what that means?
But as Officer Deo knows, it could simply mean walking away from his problems. According to friends, Brian often talked about leaving his life behind and becoming a drifter.
He talked more and more about, you know, like taking off and getting rid of it, of all of his problems.
His favorite saying was, you know, when time got hard, I'm just gonna go to Mexico and grow bananas, you know? And he was a resourceful guy and I wouldn't put it past him.
I have to admit there was, in my mind, I thought, well, maybe he isn't, you know, missing forever. Maybe he has just wandered off.
And it wasn't just the pressures of the band and his relationship with Brianna that have been weighing on Brian. Even before the visit to the counselor, Brian had been bringing up the fact that he was adopted and that one day he would try to meet his biological mother, who lived in Florida.
He was toying with the idea of, hey, if I decide to contact my, you know, birth mother, would you go to Miami with me? And I said, of course, you know. And that was just a month before, and battling kind of the confusion beyond not wanting to hurt his adopted family, but wanting to know who he was.
Officer Deo must consider the possibility that Brian left everything behind to seek out his birth mother. But the idea that Brian just walked away seems far-fetched to some of his friends and family.
Would he leave? Would he do that to his family? Would he do that to his friends? Would he not contact anybody?
He needed people. He liked the people. I don't see how he could just drop everything. I don't think he could do that.
And when Maureen checks with the National Adoption Registry, it appears that Brian has not contacted his biological mother, which seems to rule out that theory. The other possibility, given Brian's strange behavior and the missing bottle of Tylenol PM, is that Brian took his own life. But according to Rusty, the singer of the band, Brian had expressed strong feelings against suicide.
Brian was a firm believer that if you commit suicide, you go to hell and rot in hellfire.
Brian's brother Adam also believes suicide is unlikely.
You don't take your life if you have something else out there. He had his family, he had his friends down here. He had a lot.
And when Officer Deo talks to Poison Control, she discovers that the amount of Tylenol PM left in the bottle was not enough to kill Brian. With no physical evidence pointing to suicide or a voluntary disappearance, Officer Deo has little to go on. Brian Barton has now been missing for 10 days. His father, JB, and brother Adam have come to Seattle to help with the investigation. They begin by visiting Brian's apartment with Officer Deo. Immediately, Officer Deo senses that something is not right in the apartment.
The environment in that apartment, in Brian's apartment that day, you could feel the tension. You could feel the electricity in there, and the vibe or the feelings in there was just, something happened there.
Officer Deo begins scanning the room for clues.
Does it look like there's been a struggle? Is there anything, maybe anything on the wall, a mark on the wall, maybe blood, maybe a hole in the wall, anything that would just, indicate anything that might have gone wrong?
And then she notices something strange about the screen door, which is sitting off its tracks on the back porch.
The aluminum frame was bent probably about a 30-degree angle.
Suddenly, Officer Deo's investigation takes a turn.
When I saw the screen door in that condition in Brian's apartment, I thought a struggle had ensued. Something had occurred in that apartment.
Coming up, band members find themselves at the center of the investigation into Brian's disappearance.
Went from Brian being missing to now like I'm a suspect for murder. It was very intense.
Brian Barton's friends and family have been searching for him across the Seattle area for 10 days, but they haven't found a single sign of his whereabouts. Now, Officer Darlene Deo is visiting his apartment, and she thinks she may have stumbled on a major clue that might point to possible foul play.
And I noticed the screen door was bent and off. It was sitting on the patio. And I asked the young people in the room, the band members, hey, what happened to the door?
But according to Officer Deo, they can't offer a good answer.
I don't know. I said, well, you guys live here. You don't know what happened to the door? I don't know. It was just like that, you know, when we got home.
To Officer Deo, Brianna's and the bandmates' behavior is evasive and highly suspicious.
They didn't look at me directly. When they did, they couldn't hold that look for very long. It seemed that they were looking at someone sideways or behind me. At that time, I didn't know who that person was.
The person turns out to be Dylan Lorem, Brian's friend and the bass player of the band.
Now, he was rather nice to me for the most part, but he was sort of like, when you looked at other people around him, it's sort of like he commanded an era of, you know, intimidation.
I felt that the band members, each individual I was speaking to, including Brianna, were checking with this guy. The warning flags were up and they were flying high, and I knew something had happened.
Officer Deo is convinced that the bandmates are hiding something.
I believe that all of Brian's friends and band members collaborated their stories in an effort to ward off law enforcement, ward off any detection, because those band members, some of them, maybe all of them, know exactly what happened to Brian. They just don't want to tell us about it.
But at this point, the police still don't have much to go on. The broken screen door alone is not sufficient evidence to name anybody a suspect. And Brian's family is beginning to lose hope that he is still alive.
I think for a long time I thought he would just come home. But then as things went on, I'm like, that, you know, he wouldn't do this. Something has happened to him.
One month has now passed since Brian went missing, and there are no new leads on the case. But then, one of the band members begins to grow suspicious.
I started to think that whatever happened that night, maybe some of my band members were involved in it. And that really freaked me out.
Rusty's suspicions force him to make a painful decision.
And that's why I quit the band.
According to Rusty, the other 3 band members become angry that he quit, which leads Dylan to post an ominous picture on a friend's MySpace page.
A picture that he had taken to glorify himself or send a message or whatever.
The picture is of Dylan, also known as Tank, holding a shotgun pointed directly at the camera. Dylan also makes a separate post that reads, "Rusty is ending my band. Ending him is my payback."
I started being afraid of my safety once I got the picture of Tank with the shotgun and all the threats. And that's when I contacted the detective.
Rusty takes the picture of Dylan to the Federal Way Police Department to show Officer Deo.
I mean, you could tell this kid was scared. And I asked him why he would be scared. And he said, well, I left the band. And Dylan's mad. And I thought right away, Brian left the band. Was Dylan mad then? What happened?
But according to Dylan, the picture was just a harmless prank.
I mean, if I had really done something to Brian, would I just go and post up a picture like that the next day? It's absurd to me.
Still, Dylan's MySpace post only increases Officer Deo's suspicions.
Someone in that band knows what happened. and they don't want to share it. They don't want us to know. They don't want to suffer the consequences. But boy, Brian sure did, didn't he?
But without any physical evidence, Officer Deo's hunches lead nowhere. In May, the missing person case of Brian Barton is finally assigned to a detective at the Federal Way Police Department. But before Officer Deo turns over the reins, she gets a strange call from one of the band members.
I believe it was Ryan. Said he was moving out, and everyone boogied out of the apartment.
And as Ryan explains, he isn't the only band member with an itch to leave town. Apparently, Dylan has already moved to Los Angeles, just 2 months after his friend went missing. But according to Dylan, there's nothing suspicious about his move.
I went to LA because I had an offer from a friend to do some recordings. It was no secret I was going to LA. You know, I let everybody know. I told everybody, I told all the friends, you know what I mean? But it was not like, you know, I'm trying to escape from anything. It was, you know.
In fact, Dylan says he tried to call the Federal Way Police numerous times.
If somebody would have said, hey, Dylan, we need to question you, I would have been all like, okay, let's go. I wanted that, to be honest with you, because I wanted to, you know, give my side of the story.
But according to Dylan, no one at the police department will talk to him. And the accusations are starting to take their toll.
I started being very alienated and, you know, like a lot of people I thought were my friends, you know, turned out not to be my friends. Went from Brian being missing to now like I'm a suspect for murder. It was very intense.
The detectives in charge of Brian's case are finally ready to ramp up the investigation, and they begin by bringing in potential suspects for questioning.
In this case, we really didn't have a suspect. We had more persons of interest. Brianna and Ryan and Dylan, everyone seemed to point us in the direction of those three as knowing who or what may have happened to Brian.
It was Dylan who had argued with Brian about quitting the band and posted threatening messages to Rusty. And even though Ryan and Brianna lived in the apartment with Brian, they were unable to tell Officer Deo how the screen door was damaged.
The first active step that I took is I went out and contacted his girlfriend, Brianna Duval, and asked her if she'd come down the station and do an interview.
Brianna is unprepared for the visit.
Came to my house and knocked on the door, and I was kind of in my pajamas and get yourself together, you're going to the police station right now. It was 5 in the morning, they came and dragged me out of bed.
Detective Laird takes Brianna into a room at the police department headquarters, recording her interview on a hidden camera.
I told him what I told him, and I felt like it was okay, you know. But little did I know I was like one of the suspects, you know, I mean, and with no reason.
Brianna tells police again about the events leading up to March 10th.
2 days before Brian was missing, he broke up with me, quit the band, and then the day before he was missing, called his friends.
Detectives also interview Brian's friends and other bandmates, except for Dylan, who is still in LA.
My impression of Brianna, Ryan, and Dylan was that they all were kind of pointing fingers at each other as to what could have possibly happened to Brian. If something foul play had taken place, they felt that either Brianna had done it or Dylan and Ryan had probably done it.
In fact, some of Brian's other friends seem to point fingers at Dylan as well, if only because of his size.
When the police were interviewing us, one of the questions was if anyone could have killed Brian, who could it have been?
Would you feel there was anybody in your group of people that was capable of doing it?
And I think the majority of the people said Dylan, based on the fact that he was a big guy.
Detectives take their next step, thoroughly searching Brian, Brianna, and Ryan's apartment.
So they contacted the manager at the apartment complex, and they went to the apartment and checked it out.
Detectives hope it's not too late to find some relevant shred of evidence. Coming up, detectives come upon a shocking new clue.
There was some kind of body that had been buried in that area.
The Federal Way Police believe that 2 of Brian's bandmates, Ryan and Dylan, and Brian's fiancée, Brianna, may know more than they are saying about Brian's disappearance. And now that Ryan has vacated Brian's old apartment, detectives are able to inspect the property for any signs of foul play without a warrant.
When I went to the apartment, we started looking around, just looking for any kind of fresh paint or anything that would show some kind of struggle.
If there was violence, if something happened in the apartment, can we find anything that can connect that? Can we connect the dots in any way?
But the apartment isn't the only place detectives are looking for clues. With more and more suspicion focusing on Dylan and Ryan, police decide to search Dylan's grandmother's property. It's where the band used to practice and where Dylan and Ryan claim to have been on the night of Brian's disappearance.
When I was at the apartment at the same time, Detective Wells and several other detectives were at Dylan's grandma's house just outside of Bellevue.
Detectives bring cadaver dogs to the property, and they're looking for one thing: the body of Brian Barton.
They had dogs, and they were going to search the property, and he would get back to me. I was like panicked.
Dylan can hardly believe what's happening.
I was guilty until proven innocent, you know what I mean? Like, everybody had thought that I had done it.
But then, a cadaver dog zeroes in on a patch of ground in the backyard.
The cadaver dog had hit on a site that had been disturbed and recently dug up.
And when a cadaver dog hones in on a specific spot, it usually means one thing.
There was some kind of body that had been buried in that area.
Meanwhile, back at the apartment on Southwest Campus Drive, Detective Laird makes another discovery: a large stain in the carpet.
My initial thought on the stain is that it was possibly blood.
Detective Laird and his partner conduct a quick field test.
And the initial field test did come back positive for blood.
But Detective Laird still needs the Washington State Crime Lab to verify the findings with a more extensive test. If these findings come back positive, they could be the linchpin of the investigation.
I thought, you know, this was gonna be something that would tell us if there was some kind of foul play and give us some evidence to start understanding maybe what had happened to Brian.
Detectives now wonder, did bandmates Dylan and Ryan possibly murder Brian Barton in the apartment and bury his body on the property of Dylan's grandmother in Bellevue? Or was there an altercation that resulted in an accidental death, which Dylan, Ryan, and Brianna are now covering up? For Brian's family, the answer could bring even greater despair.
I mean, it's like your worst nightmare. You know, you kind of like try to think about it, and then you're like, okay, no, I'm just gonna wait till I hear from them.
The news also increases the suspicions of Brian's friends.
At first, I didn't think Dylan had anything to do with it, but the fact that the police were involved and had gone to his grandma's house where they practiced with cadaver dogs, it just made me wonder.
The Washington State Mobile Crime Lab tests the carpet, the pad, and the concrete floor of the living room in the apartment. And all three tests come up negative. There is no trace of human blood in the stains.
At that time, it was very frustrating because we weren't able to find any more evidence of any kind of struggle in the apartment.
Meanwhile, police find out that the patch of disturbed earth does contain a body, but not that of Brian Barton.
A family dog died, and we had buried it in the back, and obviously the cadaver dogs had found or smelled the dog out.
The next day, Maureen follows up with police.
I said, what'd you find? And he goes, oh no, it was a dog. I was like, okay, that's good, but then I still have no answers.
With no more leads to follow, the search for Brian Barton, whether he's dead or alive, goes cold. Two years go by, and still no one has heard from Brian.
We don't know what happened. We just know we have our son missing, and it's just a tough life.
I want to think that Brian just walked away. I want to think that he disappeared just to get away from everything, start over, jumping trains. He might be on the East Coast, Midwest, who knows. I want to think that.
And then, in June of 2007, the Federal Way Police make a renewed attempt at finding the truth. They request voluntary polygraph tests from Dylan, Ryan, and Brianna.
I was like, yeah, no worries, you know? Anytime they would have asked me to come in, I would have came in and talked to them.
According to official police documents, all three pass the polygraph tests, and their names are cleared.
At this time, Dylan Lorm's no longer a person of interest. Neither is Brianna Duval or Ryan Bruce.
The Jamison family disappeared on Thursday, October 8, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. The Jamison family's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to them. A 6-year-old girl and her free-spirited parents vanish in the backcountry of Oklahoma.
It was terrifying to know that they might be lost in those woods.
I had the feeling from the very first moment that it was foul play.
We thought they were either, one, lost on that mountain, or two, it was a murder-suicide.
A police investigation reveals bizarre questions, but no answers.
I know she's told the neighbors around here she's a witch.
In this area, you find that much money, automatically you start to think about drugs.
Then she put the gun to his head and said, "You need to go."
This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated.
It was like not knowing. I mean, what happened to my kids?
They didn't deserve this.
On the day before the Jamisons disappear, they load their pickup truck and drive 30 miles to Oklahoma's Panola Mountain.
They were looking for property. They were looking to go buy 40 acres of land in a very rural area.
The Jamisons had actually learned about the land on the internet.
The parcel of land is situated in a remote area near an abandoned oil well.
It is really forested area. There's a lot of cliffs and ravines. That's what they like, though. They liked nature.
Those who know Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison say the couple looked at Panola Mountain as a fresh start, a new beginning for them and their young daughter.
They like to go look at land and imagine what if and fantasize about, you know, building whatever, their dream businesses, homes, whatever.
Nikki Shenold has been Sherilyn Jamison's closest friend for more than 10 years.
She used to say a lot, you have to stand for something. I don't care what you stand for, but you have to stand for something. When she believed in something, she believed in it with her whole heart.
Friends and family say that when Sherilyn met Bobby Jameson in the summer of 2002, she knew he was the man for her.
Sherilyn decided right then and there that she liked him and she was interested. Bobby was a very gentle man. He was a good man. He didn't want to do anybody wrong.
They fell in love and got married in July of 2004. Later that summer, the Jamesons have a baby girl and name her Madison.
Madison was my son's, I guess, the best gift in his whole life.
Where are you going, Sissy? Looky, there you are on TV.
She was just, you know, a beautiful child, and her and I were best friends.
Madison.
For Bobby and Sherilyn, moving to Panola Mountain is the next step in building a simpler life. They're excited to join the small community living there, people who prize independence and self-sufficiency.
There's very few people that live up there. Even the ones that do have the bare minimum needs.
In order to have electricity, you have to really have a generator. Some people have septic systems, some people don't. It's a pretty rustic way of life.
When it comes to being off the grid, they're as close as you probably could be in this area.
On the morning the Jamesons start to explore the mountain where they hope to make their new home, they become lost in a maze of dirt roads. They run into one of the handful of people living up there and ask for directions.
He's out there working, he sees them come up. They're talking about buying land in that area. They're asking him questions about, okay, how do you build on a place, you know? How do you do the things that you need to do to be able to live in this area?
Bobby and Sherilyn get directions to the plot of land they're considering and decide to return the next day. The following morning, they drive back up the mountain, looking forward to seeing the place where they would live out their dreams.
I think they wanted to get away from everybody and be able to enjoy life on their own, not to have to answer to anybody.
It's pretty desolate, but I think desolate at that point was what they were looking for. They were just kind of looking to start anew and kind of get away from mainstream.
But the Jamesons' outing comes to an unexpected and mysterious end. 8 days later, hunters on four-wheelers find a locked truck parked on a dirt road near the top of Panola Mountain.
They peeked in the window and they saw a dog, and the dog was not doing so well. It had been locked in that truck for multiple days.
There wasn't any food for the dog. I mean, she was a survivor. She was a survivor to live through that.
There is no sign of the Jamesons anywhere on the hilltop. The Latimer County Sheriff's Office is called.
The call just came in that there's an abandoned truck up there. We broke the glass, got the dog out of there. We started to do an inventory on the vehicle to try to find out who they were.
When he began to find things in there, he knew that it was something definitely was wrong. They had cell phones in their truck, and their billfolds were there, her purse was there. You know, it was like they had just disappeared.
Because their coats, phones, and money are all left behind, police believe that Bobby and Sherilyn, along with their 6-year-old daughter, Madison, must be lost nearby in the woods.
After we started looking through everything, we were figuring, okay, they're up here.
It'd be quite easy for somebody to go out there and get bit by a snake and to not be able to get back to the truck and just to not be able to find your way around.
Police conduct an immediate search of the area surrounding the truck.
I had 5 or 6 deputies up there. Started calling out their names once we figured out who they were, trying to get some type of reply from them.
Rugged terrain makes the search doubly challenging.
You can get lost in the woods up there very easily unless you know where you're going. Because if you get in the midst of the trees, you can't see very far ahead.
For law enforcement, time is of the essence.
There was a child missing. It was getting towards, middle, end of October. The nights were getting colder, and they didn't have their jackets with them because those were left in the truck.
We knew that they had been there 8 to 9 days, and you're getting on that timeline there to where, the chances of making it, we're at that point now.
Why hadn't anyone reported that the Jamison family had been missing for 8 days? The few people that saw their truck guessed that it belonged to a work crew.
There's a lot of wells up in that area, oil wells, gas wells. So a lot of people thought it was just people with the oil field that had come in.
Also, the Jamisons were a very private family, and it wasn't unusual for them to hunker down for several days or longer without speaking to friends or family members.
They had a habit of going out of town for extended periods of time and not really letting anybody know.
We could go a year and not talk and pick up the phone and act as if no time had gone by. I mean, that's just the relationship that we had. There's a lot of reasons why no one was alarmed.
Bobby and Sherilyn had also just pulled 6-year-old Madison out of school in preparation for homeschooling her.
The school didn't realize that, Madison wasn't there because she had been taken out.
If it wasn't for the hunters coming down and telling the man that lived close to him about the vehicle, it could have been that much longer.
The sheriff's men on Panola Mountain realized that by now, the Jamisons could be anywhere. They used the family's cell phones to help reconstruct their last known movements.
As we checked the GPS from the phone, we had found out that they didn't spend the majority of the time parked there.
GPS coordinates lead police up a nearby hill, where they find footprints.
The 6-year-old's footprints were there, and that was obvious and easy to identify.
We were able to follow their footprints as well as follow the GPS on the camera up to a rock.
They determined that the Jamisons spend about 15 or 20 minutes up the hill from their truck, and remarkably, they find an eerie memento of the family's time on the hill.
The cell phone had a picture on it of Madison. They'd actually taken the picture on a small bluff that was just north of the location, maybe just a couple 100 yards.
It's the last picture that we have of Madison.
It appears to police that after taking the photo, the Jamisons return to their truck and start to leave. What happened next is shrouded in mystery. Then, while scouring the cab for more clues, a deputy sheriff makes a stunning discovery.
He said, "I've got something to tell you, and I think you need to come up here." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And he told me, he said, "Hey, there is a substantial amount of money in this vehicle."
A bank bag hidden beneath the driver's seat contains $32,000 in cash.
I wondered why. Why is all this money in here?
Anytime any large amount of cash is found in a vehicle, it raises a lot of red flags.
So at that moment, I said, okay, get everybody away, tape it off as if it was a crime scene. Don't know, what's going on yet, but tape it off.
We really weren't sure why they disappeared.
Coming up, evidence points to a violent event in the Jamisons' disappearance.
I think that they were probably forced out at gunpoint. I mean, why would you struggle if someone has a gun?
While looking at a plot of land on Oklahoma's Panola Mountain, Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their 6-year-old daughter Madison have disappeared. Investigators find the family's truck abandoned in the Oklahoma backcountry.
A pickup sitting down there, with all of their goods and the dog locked inside the car was very suspicious.
Investigators are confounded by their most recent discovery, a hidden bank bag containing $32,000 in cash.
It's very unlikely that they would leave the vehicle there and lock their cell phones and their wallets and leave all of that in the car on their own accord, but we really didn't know.
Investigators are also baffled that the family dog was apparently left to die in the cab of the truck.
Madison, once she had that puppy, never went anywhere without the puppy.
It just doesn't make any sense, because that was Madison's friend, and she would have screamed and hollered if he'd left the dog in the car.
The whole fact that the dog was in the truck locked up and they're nowhere to be found tells me that they got out of the truck in a hurry.
Even the cell phone picture of 6-year-old Madison prompts speculation among some of their friends.
I don't think her parents took that picture. I think that somebody else that she did not know took that picture. She had her arms out like this and her hand was over it in a weird position. She was looking off. It wasn't a real smile. She looked very uncomfortable to me. Very uncomfortable.
Police theorized that the Jamesons were in their truck heading back down the mountain when they were interrupted.
It seemed to me like they were leaving, and that someone came up that one-way road, and they stopped. Maybe they knew him, maybe not well. They stopped, talked to the person. From there, obviously, I don't know what happened.
But investigators find no signs of a struggle at the scene of the truck.
Signs of struggle for life or death would be violent. That's not going to be some small tussle.
There was no blood found on the vehicle. There was no broken glass.
You're obviously looking for disturbance on the ground. When people fight, there's clothes that's shredded, there's things that fall out of pockets. Whenever it's that violent, something would be left to show that there was something that happened there.
Still, friends and family think the scene suggests that the Jamesons left against their will.
I think that they were probably forced out at gunpoint. I mean, why would you struggle if someone has a gun to you?
Hopeful for a lead, investigators process every item found in the truck.
At this point, there were so many different things that led us in different directions. We weren't sure if they were lost. We weren't sure if they were abducted.
Then, buried in the clutter filling the cab, they stumble upon something they never expected. An 11-page letter written from Sherilyn to her husband, brimming with hostility.
She was lashing out big time in this letter to Bobby.
It was just a hate and discontent. The years of fighting. She felt that he wanted to be a loner and didn't really need a family. Hate.
Investigators learn that in recent months, there were serious stresses in the Jamesons' marriage.
We learned from their family members that they were having problems. We had learned from the letter that they were talking about getting divorced.
They had been looking at selling their house and kind of moving away to get away from that to make things better.
Much of the strain dates back to 2003, when Bobby was involved in a serious auto accident.
Bobby was driving his truck in 2003, and he had a wreck. He was coming around a curve, which is a blind curve in the road, and this lady hit him from one side, and another lady hit him from the other side.
Since the accident, Bobby suffered from chronic pain and was unable to work.
It is very hard for him to get up out of bed even. Medicine wasn't really helping relieve the pain.
It made it hard for him to do things around the home. And I think that the pain every day, the chronic pain, really put a toll on his spirits. And I think he became depressed, and it made things more difficult in the marriage.
The letter forces investigators to consider a violent scenario in the Jamesons' disappearance. Their concerns heighten when family members tell them that a pistol belonging to Sherilyn Jameson cannot be found.
We didn't know about the .22 pistol until that moment, so we said, no, we haven't found a pistol. And they told us, okay, well, usually she carries this pistol in the vehicle.
Investigators search the Jamisons' truck and house thoroughly. When they find no pistol, they begin to fear the worst.
We got a pistol missing. We have a hate letter here. We're starting to get to point toward maybe murder-suicide. We thought to ourselves that maybe it was her that killed them.
Coming up, leads in the Jamisons' disappearance go from confusing to downright bizarre.
Bobby had asked him, okay, is there a special bullet that I can buy to kill these spirits?
Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their 6-year-old daughter Madison have been missing for nearly 2 days. The possibility of foul play comes to the forefront of the investigation as police learn more about a troubled marriage and Sherilyn's missing pistol.
A pistol being missing is important. We were told by family members that she carried the pistol everywhere. Maybe this was a murder-suicide.
If a murder-suicide had occurred, the Jamisons' bodies would still be somewhere on Panola Mountain. On October 17th, less than 24 hours after their truck was found, law enforcement begins a massive search.
The emergency management in Latimer County got a hold of all the fire departments in this area, EMS, forestry. Local people started showing up with horses, four-wheelers.
They didn't know where to go, where to start looking. You know, so they just took teams and went up there.
All of the resources of Latimer County are brought to bear. Helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, tracking dogs, teams of horses and mule, and hundreds of personnel all assist in the search effort. The rough terrain makes everything twice as hard.
It's a triple canopy, a lot of woods, a lot of rocks, almost all of it straight uphill, and very, very tough conditions to try to do a search in.
It was also hazardous and dangerous because a lot of the people didn't know the woods and they could get lost.
Walking up those mountains and trying to keep a straight line and everybody intact is very, very hard to do in that type of terrain.
Tracking dogs are also brought up to Panola Mountain to aid in the search effort.
There were dogs that we brought up to the scene, both cadaver dogs and air scent dogs, to try to locate the Jamison family.
We used some articles from the vehicle to let the dogs take a sniff of it, try to get familiar with their scent.
The dogs start at the truck and fan outward through the surrounding terrain.
They were very interested at the top of the mountain as well as around the truck. They didn't really want to leave that area.
Although acres of woods surround the open area at the top of Panola Mountain, the dogs don't venture off the plateau. They alert on a nearby water tank, signaling investigators to the possible presence of human remains.
The tank was full of water, and the dogs seemed to have hit on it quite a bit. Obviously, we were thinking to ourselves, okay, they might be dead bodies in this tank.
The tank is drained and examined, but nothing is found inside. Search teams scour the mountainside, but find no bodies.
I find it impossible for you to be able to hide your own body. Yes, you may be able to hide one or two that you'd obviously kill, but to hide your own body would be nearly impossible.
That conclusion brings a measure of relief to the Jamisons' friends and family, who have trouble believing Sherilyn capable of murder.
I don't think there was any way, even if Sherilyn was depressed, that she would shoot Bobby. I know they had a lot of arguments and they had fights about things, but she truly loved Bobby and Bobby loved her.
To help spread the word about the Jamisons, missing posters are created and distributed around southeastern Oklahoma.
There was effort made to get information out to the public and to let them know that they were missing.
We took the picture of Madison off of their cell phone that they had taken up on the mountain. We put her age, height, her hair, date of birth. We used the driver's license of Sherilyn and Bobby, and we done the same for them.
So anybody that walked by, you could see, hey, you know, I didn't know them, or, you know, I saw them the other day.
Although their focus shifts away from murder-suicide, investigators continue to uncover strange details about the Jamisons' lives. They discover that Bobby, and especially Sherilyn, had a strong interest in spirituality.
Sherilyn had some beliefs that were not commonly shared with other people, and I think she had a tendency to exaggerate them and go a little bit overboard with them.
In the weeks prior to their disappearance, the Jamisons attended prayer meetings conducted by a local preacher, who was later interviewed by investigators.
He was talking about them seeing spirits, that they came to him and was talking to him about seeing spirits.
The preacher tells investigators that Sherilyn said that angels were coming into their home in the form of children and interacting with her 6-year-old daughter.
I know that Sherilyn had said that Madison was talking to people that had died, and one of them was named Emily. I don't think it was someone dead. I think it was an imaginary being that she, you know, had, you know, to cope with some of the things that were going on in her life. You know, it's very hard for a small child to be somewhere where there's arguments going on.
The preacher also tells police that Bobby Jamison believed that he saw spirits on the roof of their Lakeside Eufaula home. It's a disturbing revelation.
It was 3 or 4 spirits that were giving them trouble, and mostly talking about them being on the roof. And we had also found out from him that Bobby had asked him, okay, is there a special bullet that I can buy to kill these spirits?
That makes me sad. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what that would be about.
Friends and family are not clear on what Bobby may have been going through to explain such unusual behavior.
It's a mystery to me. I don't know where that came from, you know, and I don't know the minister, I don't know the church, I've never been there before. It just doesn't sound like him to say something like that.
According to police, Sherilyn had also spray-painted odd phrases on signs and buildings in their neighborhood, including the storage container they had sitting on their lakefront property.
Sherilyn had a cat that had passed away, and she believed that it had been poisoned, and that raised a lot of issues within the neighborhood.
The graffiti said something along the lines of witches don't like their cats being killed.
I know she's told the neighbors around here she's a witch, and come on in for some witch's brew, and I think it scared people off, but I think she just didn't want to be bothered by people.
Sherilyn used to tell me, if you have a problem with somebody, make them think you're crazy. The crazier they think you are, the more they'll leave you alone. It's true, it worked. You spray paint some crazy stuff on there and people think you are crazy. I don't think anybody bothered them after that.
For investigators, the clues and odd revelations about the Jamisons' lives are not adding up to a coherent whole.
When you do an investigation, one of the ways that most of us were taught, you actually get rid of each scenario that could have happened. So process of elimination on it. And in this case, we haven't been able to completely eliminate anything.
This has been a very bizarre thing. I mean, there are so many pieces to this puzzle, and every day you find a new piece, something else comes up.
After the Jamisons have been missing for 7 days, a lead finally surfaces that appears to turn the investigation around. Law enforcement learns that the Jamison home is outfitted with surveillance cameras and that recordings were made up to the time of the family's disappearance.
Both cameras were pointed toward the driveway of the residence. We have the footage of their home surveillance that morning of them getting ready and preparing to come up to the mountain.
In the eerie-looking surveillance video recorded on the day they disappeared, the Jamisons are seen packing their truck.
The family was found going in and out of the home multiple times, back and forth to the car in somewhat of a trance-like state.
We found it odd that they had to go back and forth so many times. I would say safely each one of them, without it being an exaggeration, went 20 times back and forth. They never acknowledged each other as they were walking back and forth from the vehicle. Never acknowledged each other. It's like they were the only persons in the world.
Speculating that the Jamisons' behavior may indicate an involvement with drugs, Sheriff Beecham shows the recording to experts.
From their security cameras, trying to get an idea of what type of people they thought they were. It made me and the psychologist feel that they were on some type of drug at that time.
If the Jamisons were involved with drugs, in Latimer County, that usually means one thing.
We automatically assume here in southeastern Oklahoma, if you're on a drug, that it's methamphetamine because we have such a problem with it here.
Coming up, could a violent incident a month before the Jamisons disappeared be the key to solving the case?
Then she put the gun to his head and said, "You need to go. You need to leave right now and don't come back."
The Jamison family has been missing for 14 days. But now, a recovered surveillance video leads investigators to suspect a drug connection in their disappearance.
We felt that there was a possibility that Sherilyn and Bobby had been doing methamphetamines or other drugs by their behaviors on the video surveillance.
It can come in a powder form. It can come in a crystal form. They like to call it the redneck cocaine.
Some sort of drug connection could possibly help explain the bank bag with $32,000 found in the Jamisons' truck.
In this area, you find that much money, automatically you start to think about drugs.
But the Jamisons' friends and family believe that connecting them to illicit drug use is both wrong and unfair.
I don't know anything about having drugs or any of that. People jump to conclusions. They don't know what's happening.
I feel like a lot of the things that could be helpful in this case are almost being used to make them seem like druggies or whatever, and they weren't. They weren't at all. Everyone is speculating as to what were they really doing up there. Well, they were looking at land. It doesn't mean that they were up to no good.
Family members can also explain the seemingly suspicious array of surveillance cameras on the house. Bobby's mother says they had nothing to do with drugs. The cameras were installed for personal reasons, involving her now deceased husband.
Surveillance cameras put on the house for protection. My husband had threatened me several different times. He also threatened my son and Sherilyn. And I had the cameras installed. I'm the one that did that. I also had a security system put on my house because I was afraid. And it's hard to live through life being afraid.
FBI agents conduct a thorough search of the Jamisons' house and property.
There were no traces of methamphetamine in the home or in the vehicle.
As far as I know, the FBI did not find any drugs.
Investigators are unable to make a clear connection between the Jamisons' disappearance and drugs. But delving deeper into their personal lives, police uncover information that could explain some of Sherilyn's apparently erratic behavior.
After meeting with Sherilyn's mental health provider, we learned that she suffered from bipolar disorder and that she had been struggling for many years with the condition.
According to friends and family, Sherilyn didn't always stay on her prescribed medication.
It's a hard thing to accept that you have to take medication to be normal the rest of your life. She would do what a lot of depressed people do when you start feeling good because of the medication. You're like, oh, I'm good now. And you get off the medication and then you're worse off because your brain's trying to catch up.
I mean, she was like two different people. When she was taking her meds and taking them properly, she would be the happiest person on earth.
Sherilyn's condition could explain some of the more unusual writings in her journal, including the hostile letter written to her husband that police found in the Jamisons' truck.
When she would go in the other state of her bipolarism, she would be angry, hateful, you know, belittling herself.
Sherilyn didn't write a word unless she was writing what was going on in her head. And that's why the journal was so disturbed.
Despite Sherilyn's sometimes erratic behavior, investigators believe that her bipolar disorder played no part in the family's disappearance. According to friends and family, her illness and Bobby's chronic pain did create enormous tensions in their marriage. But they looked at moving to Panola Mountain as a second chance at happiness.
They were trying to make a go of it. They were trying to get back together. And I think they thought if they moved up there, they could, you know, just start a new life. My son loved her very, very much, as well as he did his daughter, and she loved them back.
By November 1st, the family has been missing for more than 3 weeks. Investigators are stumped.
Most investigators would love to have the amount of evidence that we have. And the problem is that it leads us in every which direction.
Then, just when they are running out of angles, a stunning new lead surfaces. Police learn that a few months before they disappeared, Bobby and Sherilyn took in a boarder.
There was an individual that was living with them, and this individual was there to help work on the residents.
Because of his chronic back pain, Bobby thought having another set of hands around would ease the burden on both him and Sherilyn. But according to friends, the boarder began to make Sherilyn uncomfortable when Bobby wasn't around.
Sherilyn and Madison both felt very threatened by this fellow who had been staying with them.
Investigators learn of one incident that was especially disturbing to Sherilyn.
Bobby had left to go somewhere, and the man that was staying here sat down next to her, real close, and put his face right in her face and said, you know, I'm a white supremacist, and you keep talking about all this Indian blood you have. And I think anybody who's not pure white needs to die.
Sherilyn takes Madison away and returns with one of Bobby's guns.
She was scared for her child, and Bobby. And she pointed the gun at the guy and said, get off this property and don't come back.
Sherilyn fires live rounds near the boarder's feet to drive him away.
She's really torn up about that. She felt really bad about it. I mean, she was crying to me, telling me this and saying, I've never held a gun to anyone before.
Investigators learn that the man has an extensive police record.
Obviously, this person became a great interest to us.
If you threaten someone and then they make you leave at gunpoint, that's a pretty big indicator that you might be wanting to retaliate.
The FBI launches an investigation to identify and track down the former boarder.
The FBI felt that he quite possibly could have brought them harm.
Coming up, investigators zero in on the Jamisons' boarder. What does he know about their disappearance?
This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated. Somebody knew they were going to be there that day, and they took advantage of that.
Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their daughter Madison have been missing for 3 weeks. But the investigation into their disappearance is finally working with a solid lead. Police learn that a month before they disappeared, a live-in handyman allegedly threatened Sherilyn's life. She forced him to leave their home at gunpoint. His current whereabouts are unknown.
We found out all the information we needed about the individual.
Investigators learn the boarder's name from a prescription bottle found in the Jamisons' truck.
We put it out to the U.S. Marshals.
U.S. Marshals find the man living in Wilburton, Oklahoma, and detain him.
U.S. Marshals tracked him down, and the FBI did interview him.
In the interview, the former boarder is able to account for his time during the Jamisons' disappearance. The FBI doesn't consider him to be a suspect. Investigators again find themselves back at square one.
I really don't know where to go from here other than each time that we get a lead, follow up on the lead.
Friends and family believe that despite the crushing challenges in their lives, the Jamisons were planning for a brighter future until something or someone got in their way.
They were trying to love each other the best they could, you know? But knowing all of that now, it really makes me sad because they didn't get that chance to start over fresh.
Over the weeks and months that follow, investigators check out each and every lead that comes their way.
There's a rumor of them being in trouble with, whether it be organized crime or just small-time gangs or crimes. That is all rumor. And we don't know any of that for a fact. But we can't get rid of that. So it's still there.
But the rumors don't lead to a break in the case. The FBI doesn't currently consider anyone to be a suspect in the Jamisons' disappearance.
At this time, we have no suspects. And until evidence comes to life to show differently, there are no suspects.
Sheriff Beecham believes it's probable that the Jamisons were kidnapped or taken by force. He just doesn't have the evidence to prove it.
Because of everything being left in there and the way the vehicle was parked, they got out of that vehicle after they were trying to leave the location because somebody had drove up there. Somebody had drove up there and blocked their path.
It's so rural up there that you wouldn't just cross paths. This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated. Somebody knew they were going to be there that day, and they took advantage of that.
Whether they made them leave by gunpoint, force, or they got in voluntarily, I don't know. And what happened from there, I don't know. But that is my current theory on what had happened.
Both family and investigators are frustrated by the magnitude of the mystery surrounding the Jamisons.
Most of the time people will tell you, and I hate saying it, but you need to find bodies. Whether alive or dead, to usually solve a case like this, you need the bodies.
Right now, we just need everyone's help in finding them and locating them, because not knowing is very hard.
I've used more resources than most people have ever used in the state of Oklahoma to try to find somebody. It's a small department. It's a small county. There's not very many people around here. Everybody talks about it now. Every day I hear, did you find that missing family yet? Did you find them? And no. That's my only answer. You know, it messes with your confidence. There's no doubt. Not being able to solve such an important case.
Perhaps due to the lack of new leads, media interest in the Jamisons' disappearance outside of Latimer County has slowed to a trickle.
Even right now, whenever I ask someone if they know about this family, a whole family that went missing, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
In the meantime, Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison's family remains desperate for answers.
It's hard to put yourself in the family's shoes. I've never had this happen to me, and I couldn't imagine it happening to me. And it must be the toughest thing you could probably go through in a lifetime.
We've already had 7 months go by. The search has gotten kind of cold. I've gone through so many scenarios in my head. If they can help me find my kids, I'll do anything. I want my kids back.
To help the case, if anybody does know any information, they need to give us a ring. We need it. We're begging for it. If you know where they're at, tell us.
You know, I would sell my left limb if somebody would come forward. If somebody would just say something. Anything. Because for as many people that there were out there that didn't like them, there were twice as many people who loved them. And we need closure. They didn't deserve this.
वांगत चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए लगदे सोहने नजारे उथे वली अल्लाह दे प्यारे उथे लगदे सोहने नजारे उथे वली अल्लाह दे प्यारे सुना कंगन दावे बाजार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए पीर गली दे रस्ते मेरे मुर्शद वांगत वसदे सुन पीर गली दे रस्ते मेरे मुर्शद वांगत वसदे नाल तकड़ा चल के मजार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए कईयां वाले दी शाने विच वांगत साडी जाने कईयां वाले दी शाने विच वांगत साडी जाने साडा लार दरबार नाल प्यार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सुन मुर्शद दे दरबार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए ओ वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सजना चल चलिए पुंछ रजौरियों आंदे उते सोहनी रौनक लांदे लोक पुंछ रजौरियों आंदे उते सोहनी रौनक लांदे कश्मीर दी सोहनी बहार सजना चल चलिए उठ चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए सजना चल चलिए सजना मोड़ मुहारा आया वांगत बीच बहारा हुण सजना मोड़ मुहारा आया वांगत बीच बहारा अज बाबा नगरी सज गई सोनी रौनक जावेद वे लग गई अज बाबा नगरी सज गई सोनी रौनक जावेद वे लग गई करो मिल के दुआवा यार वांग वांगत चल चलिए सोने मुर्शद दे दरबार वांगत चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए आया 26 जेठ यार सजना चल चलिए चल चलिए वांगत लार सजना चल चलिए